Hi everybody, welcome back. This is Steven, Northwest Small Batch Brewing. It is time for another brew talk and part 2 of Thiols. Now, part 1 didn't really seem to excite too many people, if I'm being honest. So hopefully this one's a little better. It is an interesting topic, but I guess, you know, people who are brewing beer may not necessarily, home brewers are just getting into brewing. It's a little abstract, maybe. Anyway, the point is, I'm having an old school Widmer Hefeweizen. That's not really the point, I'm just saying. All right, let's get going. So I'm trying to remember where I left off. We talked about flavor profiles, right? Peach, apricot, melon, citrus, and I think this was the Australian hops I was talking about. Anyway, with whirlpooling and dry hopping. All right. So let's talk real quickly about hop varieties that have a lot of thiol precursors, meaning they are higher chance of getting better thiols released because they have more of the precursors in them, right? Remember I told you not all hops are the same when it comes to thiols. So some of the old school ones, Saaz is good, Cascade is good, Hallertau Blanc is good, Nelson Sauvin is good, Motueka is good, and all the Blanc leading noble hops are good. They all have a lot of thiol precursors. Now, getting back into that, cheers by the way, do all yeast biotransform? In other words, wow, that does not taste like I remember it. So since 1984. I mean, Widmer was bought out by InBev, and then InBev sold it back to them not too long ago, as far as I know. But it tastes very thin. It does not taste like what I remember it. Anyway, biotransformation. So when you add yeast that have thiol precursors in them at high Kreuzen, they biotransform. The yeast biotransforms and releases all those flavors and aromas for the hops, right? So do all yeast biotransform? Well, the short answer is yes, but not equally and not in the same ways. Remember I talked about it in the last video that you really can't get the thiolized yeasts anymore at the homebrew level unless you are outside of this country. There are, I put it in the comments last time, there are a few companies that do have some thiolized yeast, but they're like in Canada and stuff like that. So all Saccharomyces yeast biotransform something. Very few yeast biotransform thiols efficiently. All right, biotransformation capacity, it varies widely by the yeast strain. For example, let's talk about Chico and English ale strains. Remember, Chico is like your SO5. The answer is no. There is no thiol release with Chico and English ale strains. And there's very, very minimal terpenes. And spoiler alert, I'm going to be talking about terpenes probably next week. Unless I bring you a full brew day next week, and then it'll be the week after. But the next brew talk is probably going to be thiols. So Chico and English strains, not very good at biotransformation. Belgian Trappist, and Saison yeasts. They have some terpenes, but not much, and minimal thiols. So not much happening with that. How about thiolized yeasts? Well, we can't get them at the homebrew level anymore for the most part, but they have lots of esters, lots of thiols, lots of terpenes. That's the way to go. All right. So in short, which I hope this video will be a little shorter, thiols are the hidden aroma bombs that you get from your hops. And by the way, they're also in grain. Biotransformation is when the yeast changes the hop molecules during the high Kreuzen. Thiolized yeast is yeast that, it's kind of like it uses bolt cutters to remove the thiols from the yeast. It's GMO and it's engineered to do that. Again, does all yeast biotransform? Yes, but does all yeast release thiols? Absolutely not. All right. So there's, take that for what it is. So we're getting to the nitty gritty here, which is when do you add the dry hops? If you're doing this biotransformation thing and you happen to be able to get some of this yeast, like escarpment yeast or something that still has that option to biotransform, when do you add the hops? Well, the timing absolutely matters when you're doing thiols and biotransformation. Thiol release occurs, as I've been saying, early on in your active fermentation. That happens really at high Kreuzen, like the high level of activity and the yeast going crazy, right? So day 1 to 3 is usually the time when you're at high Kreuzen, and that's when you want to dry hop. So you dry hop for 3 to 5 days if you're starting at high Kreuzen and you're trying to get this biotransformation. For most beers, 3 to 4 days is the sweet spot for dry hopping. In my opinion, that's the sweet spot for dry hopping, period. I just dry hopped a Kolsch that I need to actually go move into my kegerator today. And again, it's, I think 4 days it's being dry hopped, and then I'm pulling them out because that's it. You don't want to overdo. You get the flavors start going the wrong way if you leave them in too long. All right. When to add dry hops? So longer than usual adds no benefit, like I just said, and starts to introduce sort of grassy and vegetal notes, things you don't want from your dry hops. Though again, as I was saying, you don't want to leave your dry hops for too long. So what is the range? Like, how many hops do you put in for your high Kreuzen? All right. In general, what I found is that it's 3 to 6 ounces per 5-gallon batch. And, it's up to you how much you want to put in. But 3 to 6 ounces, that's a lot. Remember, 1 ounce is like a package of yeast usually, or yeast of hops. You can get two larger ones, but that's the standard size usually. A lot of brewers actually succeed with less than that, like 2 to 3 ounces per gallon, or per 5 gallons. So take that for what you will. You've got to play with it and see what you prefer personally, since it's your beer. All right, common mistakes to avoid with thiols and biotransformation. All right, number 1, treating a thiolized yeast like a hazy IPA yeast. Please don't. It's not the same thing. I know it seems like there's this connection, but don't treat your thiolized yeast like a hazy IPA yeast. Don't massively late dry hop, right? The whole point of biotransformation is dry hop during high Kreuzen. So if you dry hop really late, it's not going to hurt the beer. You're going to get the dry hop, but it's not going to biotransform, at least certainly not in the same amount. And you're really not using the thiolized yeast for what it was built for, right? Again, don't make the mistake of only using the juiciest modern hops. Do some research. As I've said, some hops are incredibly good with thiols and biotransformation, and some are not. And some actually can give you bad flavors. So not all hops should be used for thiolized and biotransformation. Make sure you're careful which hops you're using for that function. Another mistake to avoid: expecting results without active fermentation. Same idea as like don't massively late dry hop. If you're expecting incredible results in your dry hopping anywhere other than your active fermentation, you're just not going to get the results, because that's the whole point. Last mistake to avoid is do not ignore sulfur management. Biotransformation creates more sulfur than normal or usual. And so the best thing you can do is make sure you use a lot of nutrients. Lots of nutrients. Double your nutrients when you're doing this kind of thing. All right. So let's talk about which hops are good hops. This is not all of them. I'm just going to give you a short list here of great hops to use for thiols for this whole function, right? All right, let's go down the list. I kind of went through some of these already, but you've got Nelson, Sauvignon, Hallertau Blanc, Saz, Mottueka, which I thought was on the list earlier, Cascade, Sterling, Tetning, Hersbrucker, something like that. Some of these have weird names, don't they? Those are all really great hops for thiols. Now, let's talk about supporting hops, really good supporting hops. You want to use the supporting hops at a lower rate and add them for complexity without overpowering the thiols. All right, it's a whole thing here, right? So good hops to use at smaller amounts to support the thiolized hops. Citra, lightly, not too much Citra. Mosaic, lightly, not too much Mosaic. Eldorado, Idaho 7, these are all good hops to sort of complement the hops that have all the thiols in them. Now, I know what you're waiting for, and this is what I'm going to end the video on. What should you not use, right? Be careful or don't use this list of hops, right? They will either do nothing for you or put out flavors that you definitely don't want. All right? Simcoe. Do not use Simcoe for biotransformation. Strata, Chinook, Columbus, Galaxy. Galaxy is way too dominant. Sabro, which conflicts with that coconut thiol. Heavy Amarillo. I always want to say Amarillo because it's, yellow for Spanish. Anyway, you should only use Amarillo for dry hopping. You should not use that for biotransformation. And try to stay away from the pure juice bomb blends at high rates. All right? That's your list of hops to stay away from if you're doing biotransformation. You can use them as supporting hops at the end of your fermentation, dry hop for like a few days. Just keep it on the low end because you don't want them to overpower the thiolized hops. All right, that's all I got. I'm going to go try to finish this not very good and disappointing Hefeweizen. And I'll be back in a week. Like I said, it may be a full brew day. Depends how much time I have to work on it. Or it might be, the brew talk I was talking about. So I'll be back then. You'll be here. And until then, keep on brewing. Cheers.